Hey there, and welcome to another episode of HomeTech.fm. Jason Griffin here, and so happy as always to have you with us. I am joined by Seth. Seth, how's it going?
Good, Jason. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to present this episode. We had Alex Patrao on from SnapAV, and I understand it was an interesting conversation. I just had some things come up related to work and was not able to make it. So I appreciate you stepping up and taking that interview solo.
Yeah, no worries, man. This is like we tell everybody, this is a little hobby that we have, and stuff comes up with it, whether it be family or work. I mean, you got to pay the bills somehow. So
Yep. Yeah, I know. Home tech is a labor of love, right? But it's hard to buy groceries with love.
Right. I keep trying to convince them to give me food.
Let me know how that works for you.
Chipotle just looks at me like, come on.
Well, anyways, I do appreciate you taking that interview, and I understand it was a great conversation. How'd it go?
Pretty good. Now Alex is the SnapAV's surveillance line category manager. So he's basically over the entire development process and what goes on in their new Luma line. And I guess to some extent he has a little bit of oversee.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. So he's over the entire the line there for
Yep.
surveillance, both the Wirepath and the Luma line. So, but he's come on the show to talk a little bit about the Luma line, and he actually dropped some info on some new features that he's hoping to get
big
into.
News,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. I'm excited to hear it. I actually haven't had a chance to listen to it as we're sitting here and recording, so I look forward to the conversation. And I was bummed I missed it. I met Alex out at CEDIA this past year, and he gave me an overview of the Luma line, and I thought there was a lot of interesting aspects to that story that we'll get into in the interview, and had really been looking forward again to getting him on. It's been a number of months, and that's just kind of how these things work. It can take time, but glad Alex was able to join us. And if you're tuning in specifically to hear that interview, stay tuned. We're going to cover a handful here of news stories and just a couple of topics that we wanted to touch on before we jump into that interview.
Yep, definitely. I guess we can go ahead and get started. We've got a couple of tweet shout-outs to do this week. A couple of people reached out to us. One was a gentleman by the name of Brian Chapman. Now, this is kind of the continuing saga of Crestron.
We just can't get away from it.
Oh man, if I have to say that one more time, yeah, it just keeps popping back up. But this is actually pretty good. Brian reached out to us and mentioned an article that he had written from his perspective, and his perspective is actually pretty unique. Since he was, I guess it sounded like he was employed by Crestron recently.
Yep. Yeah, and Brian can be found on Twitter at ChappersAV, and we appreciate Brian reaching out. He had let us know to check out this article, and so I clicked through, and it was very well written, and he's based over in the UK, so it does have that angle to the story, but I thought it was, again, very well written and certainly worth a read. And I think we're just going to move right into the next tweet shout out, Seth, because we have definitely given our fair share of coverage and thoughts on the Crestron story. And so we don't want to get mired down in our internal debate here that we still have going on about that. But definitely go to the show notes at HomeTech.fm/102, and we'll have a link up to that story by Brian.
Our listeners are like, thank you.
Yeah, right. I'm sure.
The next tweet shout out is for Nikos Pentelli. He reached out to us and pointed us, of course, he pointed us to a new hub that's on the market.
Thank you. And this one was hard to miss, man. I had a chance to jump into this thing, and it is enormous, literally.
Yeah. So this article, I guess there was an article that shortly came out after his tweet to us over at CE Pro, and we'll put both the link to the tweet and the CE Pro article on our show notes as well, so you can check that out. But I'm just flabbergasted about everything that this thing has in it.
It's crazy. I mean, you just got to go look at the picture. I have been a little behind on the news this week, I have to admit, and I'd seen a couple things pop up about this and really appreciate Nikos pointing it out. And like you said, shortly thereafter, noticed a piece on CE Pro about it, and interesting looking design. The size is pretty off-putting to me, but when you started rattling off some of the things that this can do and the way it's set up to be a modular system where things kind of stack one on top of the other, it makes a little more sense how big it is. But man, I cannot see this thing in somebody's living room.
Right. And now, I we haven't even said what it is because I can't pronounce the name. I guess it's
great point. I was leaving that one to you.
Yeah. So it's MYXYTY, and they have a video on the CE Pro article that we'll link to that doesn't really say the name. It just kind of goes over how the system pieces together. So it starts off as a little tiny Wi-Fi Bluetooth speaker type thing, basically like a Sonos, Wi-Fi speaker.
Tiny in this case being a relative word.
Yeah, well, this is where the fun comes in, because it comes with different modules, what they're calling smart modules, that stack on one on top of each other. So to your little 360-degree speaker that will play Deezer, Spotify, and DLNA, you can add a hard drive, GSM, so cellular control, I guess, a battery backup, perfume diffuser. That's
that one just gets me. There's got to be a funny story behind that. I just can't imagine what it is.
Well, if you're going to have a speaker in the bathroom, I think having the air freshener built right in is only
okay. Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, well, let's see. RGB light that can pulsate with the music. So it's got like a hue light built inside of it. It's got you can get another module that has a camera, another module for speak recognition, and then they've got all sorts of RF modules: Z-Wave, Zigbee, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, a bunch of stuff, and more coming soon, of course. A video projector, and finally the last module that you can stack on this thing is a subwoofer module, which is just another speaker module, I guess. Wow,
pretty interesting. I'm skeptical about it given the size, but I do think it's creative in terms of the modular design and how you can presumably pick and choose the pieces that you want to buy and stack it up and make your own. And I suppose there's some value to that, but I just can't envision this thing in my living room. It's impossible.
Yeah, there's certain selection committees I have to run things by, and without
and I think
the selection,
most of our listeners are probably well aware of what you're referring to.
Yeah, and if there's no spousal acceptance factor, if it doesn't pass the test, it's not making it in the house. And I think this the Echo. We've got some things to talk about with the Echo later on, but I mean that one barely made it through, and it's been packed up in the box a couple of times to leave and be sold off somewhere, but it's still sitting on the countertop and still
hanging in there. Huh?
Yeah, it's very low key compared to this. This is designed to be like out in center of the room, and you're supposed to see it and I guess smell it.
Well, the gist of Julie Jacobson's article over at CE Pro, and the title of it is "I Was Wrong About Mixity," I think is how I would guess to pronounce it.
Maybe Mixity? I don't know.
Mixity? Yeah, I don't know. If anyone's listening and can spell that out phonetically for us on Twitter at HomeTech Podcast, I would definitely appreciate it. Take your best shot. I have no idea. But the gist of Julie's article is that she says she was wrong about it. And so apparently she had done a CES presentation where she had sort of poked a little fun at this, kind of, I would imagine, in a similar way to how we're doing. But the gist of her article is that it's actually a pretty clever design and has some pretty interesting options and features. So worth a read, worth a look. It's definitely a unique piece, if nothing else.
What I do like about it is that you can buy the things that are important to you, and you don't have to spend any extra money on features that may not be important to you. So if you like music and you like to smell good, there's a product that,
they'll have a pre-configured option for you.
Yep. So I guess we should talk about a little bit about some little news that came out of Amazon this last week.
Yeah, more big news, and continuing along the success of really the Echo line, which has become a big hit, and it was sort of a sleeper hit, and Amazon is very private about the numbers, so we really don't know exactly how many of these have sold, but it's a story we've been hearing over and over again, and we've talked about it quite a bit on our show, the success of Echo and particularly the Alexa portion of it and voice control, and they're continuing on that success here, it looks like, with a couple of new products in the family.
Yeah, so confusingly named products, I guess is what I was going to say, because we were talking...
It took me a little while to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the show, and you were telling me about the tap and what it did. And in my head, I had the tap associated with the dot, and of course the dot associated with the tap, vice versa. And I couldn't figure out what you were talking about, so I had to go actually look at pictures and look at everything and line up the names exactly with what they were. So
right,
yeah,
right.
So I guess we should the tap, the Amazon Tap is essentially like a Beats pill speaker, I guess.
Yeah, like a little portable Bluetooth speaker, right?
Got batteries in it, and it still has the Alexa power into it, so you can still talk to Alexa on it, but you have to push a button, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, I do feel like that one misses the mark in a sense. In order for me to ever really consider buying that one, I would need to be able to justify a portable Bluetooth speaker for $130 that was it. That was the only value proposition, and that would have to be okay to me. I think the voice control aspect of it on the tap, it loses a lot of the luster, because especially for someone like me who's been pretty skeptical about voice control anyways, I feel like I'm starting to turn a corner on it and really see the future of it with a product like the Echo. But I think the magic of the Echo is that it's just always on and listening, and there's zero friction involved with using it. You just say, "Hey, Alexa," and then tell it what you want it to do. Whereas the tap, presumably because it's a portable device, is limited in the sense that you have to actually tap the button on the top of it in order to activate the Alexa portion of it. And so I just think that really kind of loses its magic at that point.
Yeah. What I do think is nice is that you could like take it out to the beach or whatever, and as long as it's on like a portable hotspot, maybe your phone or something. It could use your phone's data to get out to the internet, and you can still use it to play music and I guess ask how hot it is at the beach or something. I don't know, but like,
yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that the voice control applications feel a little bit more like a stretch. Like I'm trying to think of a useful application to be able to take that with me, and I'm struggling to find that.
Right. Yeah, because you're right, because you could pretty much do the same with a $20 Bluetooth speaker at the beach.
Right. Right. And it's like, that's the whole thing about Siri, which I use occasionally, even as somebody who's not big on voice control. I do use Siri to do some simple things like voice to text and set reminders and stuff like that. But even just having that little friction point, right, of having to pull your phone out and push and hold on the button and wait for Siri to activate, a lot of times I just wish that wasn't there. I know with some of the newer iPhones, if they're plugged into a charger, then that kind of goes away. So that's, one edge case. But for me, when I'm driving around or whatever, it just doesn't have that magic, where I do feel like I'm starting to come around on voice control with a product like Echo, for that very reason, because it's just always on, always listening, and there's just zero friction involved with using it.
Well, what do you think about the Dot then? Because this is like the Amazon Echo, but it's missing the speakers.
So the Dot I really like. I think the Dot looks great, and it actually does, to my understanding, have a very small speaker in it.
Oh.
So that may be marginally better than listening to music, say, on the built-in speaker of your iPhone. But it's really more designed to just, I think, give you that Alexa voice control, always on, always listening aspect in a cheaper, smaller form factor. And my understanding, again, is that it does have an audio output. So if you did want to hook it up to an external speaker to take advantage of some of that streaming music, you're still able to do that. You're not limited to the small built-in speaker on the Dot itself.
Okay, that's pretty cool. When I first saw it, I said, oh, that's kind of the piece that would kind of sit in maybe next to the home theater or something like that. But they have the Fire TV for that you could actually, has Alexa built into it, and you could actually use that for the home theater side of it. So
right.
Yeah. I gotta say, this stuff from Amazon is feeling more and more like, you remember how like the Kindle was in the early days? Like people were just kind of off-put by a reader, and you'd hear people talking about, oh, I'll never read on one of those things. I love paper, right, and I have to feel it in my hands. And then of course, and a year later, people are like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I can take 3 books on the airplane and read them all. And now it seems to be happening here with Amazon and their Echo products. It's what it feels like to me, at least. Like Amazon finally hit another home run, it seems. And
Yeah.
with what seemed to have like a slow start, kind of some rough edges around it, even with my install here that I have at my house, has kind of won over the hearts of people. And, it seems to be doing better. And they seem to be throwing a ton of money at it and seeing what's going to happen.
Mike Wolf was talking this week about, I think, 500 some job positions they're hiring for related to Alexa. And so I think there's a ton of momentum behind it. And like you said, it's really, people are starting to really get turned on to it. And I think it's just slowly become a real sleeper success story for Amazon.
Yeah. Everybody at CES was trying to integrate with it. And, it's only going to get better. I mean, if they're putting this much effort and developing new products and pushing the line forward this way, the first couple generation of Kindles were okay. And that's what I would say the Alexa is. It's like the first generation is okay. But when you get further down the road and you have the Alexa version 3 and 4, those are going to be very nice. But we're also going to see probably other entrants, other people get into the same game, which is exactly what happened with e-readers.
Yep. Yeah, last thing I want to say about the story is I read an interesting article this week on The Verge about, it was unrelated to this specific story, but it was about really, the gist of the article was that the success of Alexa is really due to that lack of need to interact with a screen. And again, all about really removing that one friction point. And I thought it was a very interesting article, and I shared some thoughts on it in our email that went out this week, which if you're listening and you haven't signed up for our weekly newsletter, we're doing that and sending that out every Tuesday. And I had shared some thoughts on that particular story that I just mentioned in this week's newsletter. So if you're interested in receiving future editions of those, you can do that. Just go to HomeTech.fm, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a little sign-up form. But I just really thought the article was interesting, and again, speaks to, I think, the success and really where I'm starting to see the light with voice control is just that always on, always listening, and just at the ready whenever you need it. And I think it's a compelling story that Amazon is telling. Yeah,
and well, it's a good first generation, I think, and like you said, the friction word is probably the best description of what it is. Sometimes the friction's a little too low. It's recently
you got to find that threshold.
Yeah, recently in the house here, Alexa has been waking up and starting to talk to us right during the middle of TV shows and telling us about lawyers that she's found. Have no idea what she's hearing, but
oh, how funny!
Yeah. So it's
a ways to go, right? Not a perfect product, but like you said, a Gen 1 product, and really one that people are starting to latch onto.
Yep, exactly. And the one final story here, we ran across this maybe a week ago or so, but.
This is the Seth's Product Design Award segment?
Oh my God. Well, after last week, after I praised, what was that, Evo company for including pictures of wires? Yeah, Eero.
Yep. Yeah.
I was so happy that somebody finally put wires in their product images. And then I see this from Ring, which is the Ring solar panel for ultimate convenience. Now, Ring came out with some security cameras. We've been
stick-up
cams. We've been talking about these guys for a while now. Remember back when Richard Branson invested in them, and they were playing like this security angle of the Ring doorbell. Yep. You can hear it in all their marketing now. Like the Ring doorbell is more of a security appliance than anything. So I guess the next logical step was for them to take the button off of it and leave the camera in and call it a camera, like a security camera.
And that is what it looks like. The Ring, I think, is a great product and one that's had a lot of success, but the stick-up cam just felt like a miss to me in terms of it does look like the form factor just looks like they took the button off of the doorbell and called it a camera. It just doesn't speak to any, in my opinion, regard for the aesthetic, right? It just sort of looks like a doorbell stuck up on the wall.
Well, if you like that aesthetic, you're gonna love the Ring solar panel because this thing, I guess the Ring doorbell itself is of course a wireless, quote unquote wireless device where it doesn't need anything. Like it has batteries built into it, and when the batteries run down, you can climb up on the ladder and take it down, and then put it on a charger for a couple minutes, and then put it back up, and it'll run for a couple more weeks. That could be quite annoying. So their solution was, instead of running a wire, to give you a solar panel, and we'll put a link to this one in the show notes. This one may make the front cover.
The intent is good, and I do think that the idea of an easy DIY outdoor rated camera, there's still a lot of room in the market there. There's not a lot of options, at least that I'm aware of. But yeah, this picture is pretty good, and it's definitely worth a look. And I'm with you, Seth. A little bit of truth in advertising, right? I mean, there's just your wire hanging on the wall, and it's just not a product that's going to pass, again, that spouse approval test. But you know what? If you got to have a camera and you're sick of changing the batteries, then I suppose you'll find a way to live with it.
I guess just use a zip tie. That's all you need. Like, use a zip tie and tie that wire up.
Make it like straight. Yeah, at least make it like horizontal.
Oh man, it's just awful. Just god awful is what
That's like the wire geek in us, though, right? I mean, we're totally the guys who look at it and are like, "What are you doing with your wiring?" But I would suppose the vast majority of people looking at this probably hardly even noticed it, to be honest.
Oh man, I look at that and I start convulsing.
Get a little itchy.
Yeah. I just no. It just looks wrong. So,
well, it was worth a mention, but I think with that, Seth, why don't we let's move into our interview here, because I'm sure people listening are excited to hear what Alex has to say. I think the Luma line looks like a very compelling improvement on SnapAV's WirePath line, which I've had a lot of experience with in the past, and so I look forward to presenting this interview to our audience. So I guess without further ado, let's jump into your conversation with Alex.
Hey, Alex, welcome to Home Tech. How's it going?
I'm doing great, Seth. I'm very happy to join you on this podcast. I've never done a live podcast.
Well, we're so glad to have you on. Unfortunately, Jason couldn't make it. He had a client meeting pop up right at the last second, and since this is kind of one of our hobbies that we do, making money kind of takes priority. So he had to take that phone call, and hopefully he can get on and join us later. But if he doesn't make it, it's just you and I. So Alex, let's talk a little bit about what you do and who you work for. It's a very interesting company, I'd say, in our industry. Let's talk a little bit about SnapAV and what you do there.
Sure. Well, I joined SnapAV about 3.5 years ago. I came from a totally different industry. I spent about 15 years in the mobile semiconductor industry, if you can believe that. And I joined SnapAV in 2012. My first week was actually a great first week. It was at CEDIA. I joined the Monday of CEDIA in 2012. It was in Indianapolis, and it was really a great way to learn the industry by just talking to dealers and walking around and getting a feel for the industry. But in terms of my role, I am the category manager of surveillance. What that means is pretty much I'm entirely responsible for surveillance, soup to nuts. I start with the product ideas. We develop them, engineer them, create them, sell them, market them to our dealers. But it all starts with basically how I started my career in this industry, which is listening to the dealers and understanding what they need and following up with the product as best I can. Yeah,
it's definitely good, and I can totally attest to this. When SnapAV asks dealers, what do you guys need? It is a matter of months until we see it. It's quite amazing to see that the turnaround you guys do and the effort you put into putting together. And I know how hard this is, putting together a complete and working product in the amount of time from the point you get feedback from us to the point we actually see something shipping.
Yeah, and it's gotten harder over the years to do that because the things that dealers are asking for are becoming more complex over time. So it sometimes takes us longer than we'd like to get things out to dealers, but we're always listening, and we're trying really hard to get it out to you guys as fast as possible.
Well, yeah, because the easy things are done, right? The metal racks and
yeah, exactly.
and TV mounts, those are easy to figure out. And you guys, I got to say, you probably perfected those. I had to hang a TV in my house in kind of an emergency the other day, and I went down the street and bought a competitor brand mount and put it on the wall. Got everything put together, and I looked up and the TV's not level. And I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. I'll just use the little screw tabs on the back that, oh, wait, I don't have a snap mount. I can't do that. So, yeah, this is it's definitely wishing I had just waited the couple days it would have taken to get a snap mount in and put it up.
Well, as a product guy, I can tell you it's never perfect. We can always do better, and so we're always trying.
It's good to hear. Good to hear. So, SnapAV has come out with a new. Since you're in surveillance, SnapAV's coming out with a new line called Luma that is taking over. I guess in the past it's been called Wirepath, correct?
That's correct. When we launched Wirepath Surveillance shortly before I joined SnapAV late in 2011, it was a professional surveillance solution that we were just trying to drive into the industry. In 2012, we actually added control system integration, and that kind of put us on the map in terms of surveillance because we were the first to really integrate to Control 4 at the time. And that's something that the industry never seen before. And so Wirepath Surveillance has really served us well. We learned a lot in developing that line, and our dealers have for the most part, loved this Wirepath line.
So is the Luma line is kind of the next generation outside of Wirepath?
That's right. So what we did with Luma is we knew, so we started the process of developing Luma, in fact, 2 years ago, actually more than 2 years ago. And we knew we were going to do our next generation platform. And because it was our next generation platform, it gave us a chance to kind of think about the platform, understand what we wanted to do. And in fact, one of the things we talked about is Wirepath Surveillance was very successful, but we had other brands within SnapAV that were also named Wirepath, like Bulk Wire and Cables and so forth. And we kind of wanted to separate Wirepath Surveillance from kind of those categories to create. So we decided to move to a new brand. So really, Luma is just our next generation surveillance hardware. We've rebranded it because we didn't want to confuse with other brands within Wirepath. But we also took that same opportunity while we were rebranding it to understand what were we really trying to accomplish with our surveillance products. And with Wirepath, we did a great job of creating a professional surveillance solution targeted toward dealers in the CEDIA space. Great product. But as over the last 3-4 years, we've learned about some of the hardships that dealers have had, especially around the end users. The ability for the end users to use the product at the end of the day was something that we weren't quite hitting the mark with. So with Luma, we wanted to expand that to provide a professional surveillance solution that is a consumer product at the same time. And we did that by coming with totally redesigning the user interface and the end user experience in addition to the normal professional surveillance products that we offer.
Yeah, that's got to be a tough balance to strike, because on one hand you have security guys going, I need features A, B, and C, D, and E, F, G, A through Z, basically. And then on the other hand, you have homeowners and consumers and trying to use the product that is designed for casino security.
Exactly.
That's got to be a tough line or tough balancing act, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
That's exactly right. I mean, we with Luma, we had the opportunity to really create a product that doesn't really exist in the marketplace. There are consumer grade surveillance solutions out there, one-off products out there that aren't really surveillance solutions, and there are professional grade products, but there's really no professional grade consumer product out there, and that's what we're trying to hit with Luma.
Right. I mean, you can definitely have the professional grade system with a front-facing interface. It's a lot easier to use, and quite frankly, all of the professional installs I've ever gone into and installed what was considered a pro DVR, those things get so complicated, no one can actually use them on site, and they end up calling us back to find a recording and dig up, and we have to read the manual sometimes to figure out how those things operate.
That's exactly right, and that was key to our experience, our end user experience revamp that we tried to do. What you said exactly is most dealers were having to do the search and playback, or find the video and help the consumer play back and export the video when there was an event. Our goal with the end user redesign was to make it so that end users can do that instead. Now, I know that end users will still call up dealers to do that, search and export for them, but at least the design will help the dealers as well in those cases. So whether it's the end user doing it or the dealer doing it, it's a lot easier now than it used to be.
Right. Yeah, I've been complaining about this on the show for quite some time. Our show picks up, we cover a lot of the dealer side as well as the consumer facing side. So we've seen over the past, 2 years, I guess we've been doing the show, and 3 years that we've been really Jason and I have been talking about doing this and looking at the market. We've seen things like drop cam come on the market, and similar device. Okay, Arlo is another one that's out there. Those types of devices came on the market, and I think what appealed to people was how easy they were to set up and deploy, but also how easy they could just click on an app and see video from the camera that they just set up. And there was absolutely nothing like that in our space as dealers to even come close to even offer our clients. And I think from what I've seen, and I've actually put a couple of these in the last couple of I've been replacing some old NVRs and putting these in the last couple of months. From what I've seen, this is really, really close to hitting that mark.
Yeah, and like I said, we're never perfect. We're always improving. We're looking at many improvements over just even this year. We have firmware updates coming to add more capability and improvements based on dealer feedback. We have updates to our mobile app, which personally I consider the mobile app the most important interface in the system for the end user. We're making improvements there to add other ways to search for video and simplify the interface while adding additional features going forward. So we're never done. We're going to continue making improvements based on feedback, and we're just getting started with Luma.
So aside from the I don't want to discount them any, but aside from the front-facing improvements that you've made, so the user experience, the end user experience, are there any other improvements that came along with the hardware over the Wirepath brands?
Absolutely. So as we talked about at the beginning, Luma was a complete redesign from the ground up, and the first thing we wanted to do with the recorders is before we had our analog and IP line, our DVRs and our NVRs, and really there were two different systems, and they for the most part behaved differently depending on if it was analog or IP, and we really wanted to make that experience the same for both the dealer and the end user, regardless of whether you're looking at an analog camera or an IP camera. So if you look at a Luma DVR or NVR on the rack, they physically look the same. They're really streamlined and sleek. They look great in a rack. No more, having a dozen buttons on the front of the faceplate that are never going to get used because the rack's sitting in a room in the basement. Both of the systems have the same user interface. You really can't tell whether it's an IP system or an analog system based on the user interface. The control system integration is the same for both, and both systems are based on our Wirepath integration that we've done in the past, and we've just continued to add improvements on that. And then, of course, we added Oversee, and Oversee is a fantastic platform for managing the devices over time. In addition to that, specifically with the NVRs, we added a built-in PoE switch, which was really great for adding value into the NVR, so you don't have to buy a separate switch. But it also allowed us to make our cameras plug and play. So now, when you plug in a Wirepath IP camera, you give it a few seconds to boot up, and it'll pop up on the screen. No more manually setting up each camera. With our DVRs, we added HD analog support, so now we can support HD resolutions on an analog system, so that's really great. And that's just on our recorders. We also launched our new Luma analog cameras, which when we moved from Wirepath to Luma, we wanted to keep all of our same installer-friendly capability that we've added before, like having local video and power when you're using a CCTV tester, but we also added much higher performance and features. Of course, the biggest being HD support up to 1080p. We've improved our ESD and surge standards on our analog cameras. This helps with, it may sound like not a big deal, but this improves our long-term quality and reliability, especially during surge season. We get a higher rate of failures because of surge. So we work really hard on quality at SnapAV, and that's just one area.
Yeah, as a dealer who's located in Florida, I can thank you for improving anything that has to do with surge. Surge season is real here.
Absolutely, it's real everywhere. To be honest, I mean, surge. United States is the lightning capital of the world, so no place on earth has more lightning per capita than United States. And it's not just lightning storms in Florida; it's also brownouts in the West when there's a power problem. So a lot of things can cause surge, and we see an absolute increase in returns when surge season happens. So we work really hard on this, so you can avoid a call to your customer and not have to roll a truck because the camera went out.
Yeah, that's always good. One quick question I had that kind of came up, and maybe I'm just not following or understanding. Do you guys have like a hybrid type DVR/NVR, or will the DVRs pull in like IP cameras?
No, we do not. So in general, we've avoided doing a hybrid. It's one of those areas where a few of our dealers have asked for it, and I've avoided doing it. The reason why is because a hybrid recorder requires a lot of extra processing power. That's just going to make it cost more. And with the new DVRs, we now support HD cameras. So if you have a need for HD, you can go ahead and use our new Luma DVRs. If you really want to force the change over to an NVR, we sell encoders so that you can use your existing analog cameras with our NVR. But the key is we can avoid adding that cost to a hybrid, because we know that if you're trying to transition from an analog camera to an IP system, which happens, personally I'd rather add an encoder in the meantime, because eventually you're going to change those analog cameras to IP anyways. So when you do that, you add the IP cameras, get rid of the encoder, and you're left with a fully functioning NVR rather than a hybrid NVR that might support a limited number of analog and a limited number of IP cameras in that one system.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I've been pushing and selling IP cameras for a very long time, since the resolution kind of picked up on them, and I was able to show that you get more picture for what you're doing here, and you can do better with less cameras. So it's been a long time since I've put in a piece of coax for a camera, but I imagine there's a lot of installs out there that are using RG59, and being able to find a way to include an HD camera. So you're using HD, like HD SDI? Is that what you're putting in?
No, actually we support HD TVI.
Okay.
HD TVI is a new HD analog standard. HD SDI is several years old, and when we looked at it, we chose not to support it because, frankly, it was too expensive and had too many limitations. Like your distance had to be less than like 60 feet, and you had to use RG6, not RG59. It had too many requirements on it, and so we didn't think it was going to be a good solution for our dealers. And the market proved us true, because HD SDI never really took off. But HD TVI eliminates those restrictions. So you can get over coax, you can get an HD signal hundreds of feet, not tens of feet. You don't need to use RG6. You can use RG59, and it's basically not much more expensive than a regular analog camera. So as a result, we've converted our entire line over to supporting HD TVI by default. Now, we still support standard analog, but our baseline system now supports HD TVI. Now, I do want to point out that there are a couple other HD TVI standards that have come out around the same time. HD CVI is out there. It has similar performance to TVI, but honestly, it's proprietary technology. There's only one factory in the world that will create HD CVI products, and I try to avoid proprietary technologies like the plague. And there's another standard called AHD, which is a good technology, but it's just further behind in terms of performance. It doesn't at the time, it didn't support up to 1080p, and it doesn't support control over the same analog. Because I want to talk about this for a second. HD TVI also supports the ability to control the analog camera over the same coax. So similar to what dealers might have used in the past in terms of RS-45, to either control the OSD of the camera, or if it's a PTZ, to be able to control the PTZ functions. Now that's done over the same coax line, so you don't have to run RS-45, making installation simpler and easier and better to control.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's kind of a theme that I've seen here. Like, you've made the interface simpler, you've made the devices themselves simpler, and you've made them easier to install. So it seems like a home run all the way around.
We're trying hard.
So I want to loop back to something you mentioned earlier and talk about it a little bit more in depth here in the show, because we've mentioned it a number of times, and that's Oversee. Now, Oversee, for people who don't know, and I'll let you explain it a little bit better than I can do it, but Oversee is basically a remote monitoring software that SnapAV provides in some of their products, from networking to surveillance. And go ahead and explain better than I can do what exactly that is.
Sure. So Oversee is a tool we created from the ground up. We started working on it about, it's probably been almost 3 years now. But basically, the point of Oversee is a device management platform for dealers in our industry. And our goal is to basically have any device that we sell that talks to a network to be managed on Oversee. And as a dashboard, you'll be able to view all the devices in your customers' locations. And what we've tried to do is to organize Oversee as dealers organize themselves, and that's based around their customers. So if you're to log into Oversee, the first thing you're shown is your list of customers. And then if you click on a customer, you might see their different locations that they might have. So one customer might have their main home, perhaps an office, a beach house. So it allows you to organize your job sites within the tool. And then in each job site, you'll see all the devices located in that job site, whether it's a Luma surveillance product, an Arachnus product, Wattbox. Anything that attaches to the network will be seen by Oversee, and that's our goal. And as we move forward, Oversee will really not only provide device management tools, but also will be delivering other services and capabilities to Oversee over time. So it's just going to be a more powerful tool, more capable tool over time as we just build and build on it.
Very cool. Yeah, I've seen. I've been following Oversee from the launch, and I started using it in the Wirepath. It's the Wattbox products, the power products, to monitor internet connectivity and do basic things like reboot the modem if the internet goes down or something along those lines. And it's worked extremely well. So I'm excited to see it come into the surveillance side of things, where we can get in and do some extra things. Now, did you say it works on the cameras as well?
Not yet. We're actually working on integration with our IP cameras. That'll happen this year. So right now it's for surveillance. We just launched Oversee with Luma in August when we launched our recorders, and IP cameras will be coming this year. And the capabilities of Oversee will be coming, more and more capabilities will be coming over time. So right now with surveillance, it's mostly around just managing the devices, knowing what's at each site, and being able to make sure that the system is up and running as it should be, and you'll get notifications when something if something goes offline or some problem arises. And we're going to be adding more notifications, more capabilities to Oversee. There's actually one really cool thing we're adding this year onto Oversee for surveillance. So I haven't really talked about this publicly, but I'd like to talk about it now. And that is P2P. P2P is it's point-to-point. It's a technology we're going to be adding into our products. It exists on products like Skype. We're doing this podcast over Skype right now. Skype uses P2P to make a direct connection from my computer to your computer so that we can have this chat right now. It's not routing our audio through a server, but there is a central server that manages us logging into Skype, right? So the exact same thing will happen with surveillance. We're going to use Oversee so that users, whether you're you, the dealer, or one of your customers, logs into the app or the web interface using an Oversee login, and that will create the connection to the device without having to do any network setup at all. So I want to repeat that. You'll be able to set up our surveillance products with zero network setup, meaning no DDNS setup, no port forwarding on the router, no IP setting, setting static IPs of different cameras and recorders and so forth. You plug it in, you add it to Oversee, you have your login, and then when you go to set up the app, you just log in using your Oversee app, your Oversee login, and boom, there are your cameras, there's your surveillance system. And this is really powerful because, first of all, it means setup is a lot easier, which is always great, which is we're always trying to do. If the end user gets a new phone, a new iPhone, iPhone 7's coming out later this year, and you don't have to go out there and set up their phone with the device or, give them complex instructions on how to set up, add a new device to their app. You just tell them click the login button and here's your login. If 2 years from now they decide to switch their ISPs and get a new router or something like that, you don't have to go roll a truck and reset up the router with new port forwarding rules because it's all plug and play. Everything's routed through Oversee, or everything is managed by Oversee. None of the video is routed through Oversee because, again, that point-to-point technology allows everything to go straight from your app to your device, but Oversee will manage the login.
Very cool. That sounds very exciting. I'm just thinking of at least the last 2 months of me rolling trucks and service calls out to change port forwards for every time Verizon decides to upgrade a router randomly.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, since you're not port forwarding all the time and leaving that port open all the time, it's also more secure. So
Right.
Obviously, as a surveillance solution, more secure is better.
Excellent. Well, that's super exciting. Alex, I want to thank you for coming on to HomeTech and dropping that big bombshell. I mean, at least for the dealers, they're going to love that. I guess it's going to trickle down to the homeowners as well because they'll just be able to put in a login and the end user experience is going to be flawless and seamless at that point without having any issues. At least that's the idea.
That's exactly the idea. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a lot of things coming along the pipe, all along those lines, just trying to make everything as easy as possible for mostly for the dealers, but that trickles down to the end users.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alex, thanks for coming on to HomeTech and sharing all this with us. We're super excited. I am a SnapAV dealer, have been for a long time, and I'm super excited to get my hands on more of the Luma surveillance lines and use them in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great experience.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.